Hi, I'm Valerie Englehart, and this video is to accompany my 5 ways to boost your art with color and texture infographic. Today, we're going to paint this elephant, and you can download the line art as well as the reference image using the link below. I am going to be using 4 colors to start this off, and that is Aussie Red Gold, some Cascade Green, some Quinacridone Magenta, and Lunar Blue. These are all by Daniel Smith. I've already squeezed some fresh pigment on just a scrap piece of paper. I am using some cold press 9x12 Arches paper, and it's at a bit of an angle. I'm using these little blocks to bring it up so that the water flows downwards. I also have some salt and some cling film on hand to create some texture. Before starting, I did a color study and picked which one I liked. So I do recommend doing a color study first, just so that you get excited with the colors that you're going to use. I'm going to start with a mop brush. This is a size 2. Get it nice and wet. And I'm just going to go in. Let's start with the orange, this Aussie Red Gold. And look, I've already made a bit of a mess, and that's perfect. And I think that's perfect because no painting will ever be exactly like mine, and therefore not even another one by me. No one will be able to copy your work either. Can you imagine trying to copy this stroke for stroke? Let's go into the magenta. Just include a little more water, let it splash down. Let's see, I'll go with some more magenta. And bring that Aussie Red Gold up here because I want that to be like sunlight. Let's go ahead and bring in the Cascade Green now. How about just here? Look at how that moves. And some Lunar Blue. And some of the darkest parts. Let's see, let's throw some more water down. Let's get some drips. All right, I'm pretty happy with how this looks so far, but while it's wet, you can start doing some other things. So I want to add cling film around here. So let's add more color. And actually, I'll use a little more green right here. I could have used some, what's that called? Masking fluid on the tusk there, but I'm going to use some sort of a texture paste and bring that to life later. I'm going to grab some salt and put it towards the face of my elephant and into the orange. And I'm going to wrap it down around the trunk to bring it up in almost a C shape. And this is just table salt. While it's wet, you can look if you want to do anything else. I don't know that I do. Maybe a little bit more magenta right here. Oh, it's gone a bit purple because it's started to mix with the Cascade Green on my paper. And a bit behind the ear too, why not? It's giving a nice soft fusion. I'll go ahead and put it on the underside of the trunk. Maybe the underside of the eye. All right, now I'm going to add some cling film. Ooh, it's starting to look like it's drying here. So I'm going to grab my spritzer bottle and just lightly spritz the paper. And as the pigment moves, I notice that where I put that magenta behind the ear had more water than pigment. And so that has run down. So I'm going to grab a more concentrated pigment of that Quinacridone Magenta and drop it in. And a little more water. And then while it's wet, just pinch. And that will help create more wrinkles in the elephant. All right, now I just gotta let that dry. All right, the painting is dried. I've brushed off the salt, removed the cling film, and we can see some lovely patterns that we can use for wrinkles. And it looks like there's dust on the hot savanna. So the next step is going to be adding in all of the shadows to give more form to the elephant. And we're just going to do that by grabbing our paintbrush and paint and painting in our darks. Okay, now that we've gotten our values in to give shape and form to the elephant, it's time to finish it off. So we don't have the white of the tusk because we covered the paper with paint. So I've got some white acrylic ink. You can use gouache, you can use white watercolor if you want. We just want to bring the white back out in that tusk. So I'm going to put a little bit of the white on my paper, little scrap piece of paper, take my brush, and I'll just paint it in. There, tusk is done. Now, one thing that we can do is we can leave this ear alone because it looks good, it's got the texture, or we could put some fresh pigment from the tube, line the ear, and then try to spritz it to get a wrinkle pattern. And you know what? This is a video to show you things, so let's go ahead and try it. I'm going to turn it. My paper is at an angle. I've got some Lunar Blue, fresh from the tube, so it's still gooey. I'm going to grab my palette knife, and I'm going to pick up some pigment. And I'm going to just start putting it on the edge of this ear. It's going to be really sticky. It's a bravery test right here. No little trees, just a happy elephant ear. All right, now I will need my spray bottle and a paper towel because this could start to drip and I don't want it all over my paper. So let's see what happens. I'm going to, oh, it's waking up some of the pigment underneath. So that's fascinating. I wasn't expecting that. So unfortunately, we're not getting the lines that I wanted. So I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to encourage the pigment to move back to be the shadow behind the ear. Going to grab my palette knife again. So this ear is wet. We've got neat pigment. I'm just going to drag it. Okay. I'm going to soften the edge. That way I don't get a hard line. And we'll just let that dry as is. I did lose some of my shadow here, which isn't ideal, but I can soften this edge so it's not so hard. And now I think it looks fine now. But if you want, I used magenta there. Just pick up your brush, grab a little magenta, and just reintroduce it. And let it dry. All right, the ear is dry. One thing I want to do is I want to bring this area back into the sun a bit. So all I'm going to do is grab my Aussie Red Gold and just glaze a little right on top. All right, then I'm just going to let that dry and we'll move on to crackle paste. All right, now that it's dry, let's just play around with using some crackle paste. So what's cool about this is it will give an interesting, well, like it says, a crackle texture to the elephant. Now, you might not want to put it on. And that's fine. You can stop at any point in the process where you like it. This is just to show you some things that you can do if you want to add some extra oomph, or if something goes wrong and you're going to throw something away anyway. It gives you a chance to experiment and try some new techniques. So for example, if you didn't like how the ear turned out, you could scoop up some crackle paste, put it on, and then you would have an interesting texture effect on the ear. I'm trying to decide if I want to put that there. Let's see, where do we want to call out? We could do it here on the front, all along the trunk. I would caution you to not go too heavy as far as placing it everywhere. Place it in a few select spots that will bring attention to the elephant. So let's go ahead and put some here on the front of the head. A thin application will give you thinner cracks, and a thicker application will give you thicker, deeper cracks. Because this is a fairly small painting of only 9 by 12, I don't want to go too thick with my crackle. And then another thing you can do is actually use your palette knife and start drawing in some of the wrinkles. Isn't a bad idea. Let's go ahead and do it. A little bit here. And let's put just a little bit at the top of the ear, right here. All right, I think that looks good. Now we just have to let this dry too, and it can take anywhere from a few hours to 24 hours to let it dry completely. All right, the crackle paste has dried and I like the way it looks. So the last thing I need to do is sign it. And just to give you a close-up, you can see that the crackle paste has given some interesting texture to the elephant. And there you have it. These are some techniques that you can use to boost your art with color and texture. If you have any questions, just send me a message. I'll be happy to answer. Anyway, have fun painting.